Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. No group in the history of gospel music produced more stars than Albertina Walker's Caravans. Among those who passed through the Chicago-based ensemble's ranks during the 1950s and 60s were Bessie Griffin, James Cleveland, Cassetta George, Inez Andrews, Dorothy Norwood, Shirley Caesar, and Lolita Holloway. All, including Walker herself, went on to become important and in most cases major gospel artists, with the exception of future dance music diva Holloway. The great thing about the Caravans was their teamwork. Anthony Halbert wrote in his book The Gospel Sound, Good News and Bad Times. They knew each other so intimately that they could easily predict each other's improvisations. The Caravans were the hypest ladies in gospel. The Caravans emerged in 1952 as an offshoot of Chicago singer Robert Anderson's Gospel Caravan. The original Caravans consisted of vocalist Walker, Ora Lee Hopkins, Alice Yancey, and Nellie Grace Daniels, and pianist Edward Robinson. Bessie Griffin, Iris Humble, and pianist Charlotte Nelson replaced Hopkins, Daniels, and Robinson in 1953. Cassetta George, Gloria Griffin, John Aaron Davis, Lewis McDowell, Dorothy Norwood, Imogen Green, and singing pianist James Cleveland were members between 1954 and 1956. 13 singles by the Caravans were issued by the state's label in Chicago before they signed with Savoy Records in 1958. The DeVock, New Jersey company also acquired rights to all of the state's recording issued and unissued and released many songs on albums that appeared on the Savoy subsidiary label Gospel. The first newly recorded songs for gospel were made in October 1958 with a lineup consisting of singers Walker, Inez Andrews, Shirley Caesar, and Delores Washington, with singing pianist Eddie Williams. By 1960, George and Davis had returned to the fold, and James Harden was serving as pianist and singer. Among the group's big hits on gospel were 1958's Mary Don't You Weep featuring Andrews, and 1962's I Would Not Be Back, also known as Sweeping Through the City, featuring Caesar. The Caravans, with Josephine Howard having replaced Davis, moved to VJ Records in Chicago in late 1962 before returning to the gospel label 3.5 years later. The band scored big on VJ in 1964 with Walk Around Heaven All Day, a now standard gospel ballad that featured and was written by George. The second album under the group's new contract with Savoy included the Caesar lead hit Choose Ye This Day. By the end of 1966, however, Caesar had left the Caravans, and with Andrews and George already gone, the group's fortunes began to dwindle. They labored on for several more years, recording albums for gospel, then HOB, some featuring lead vocals by new members Lolita Holloway, Gwen Morgan, Julia Prince, and Willie James McFeather, before Walker finally disbanded the group in the early 70s. Former members of the Caravans reunited from time to time in subsequent years for concert appearances and also made 2 albums. Walker came together with George, Howard, and Washington for the 1976 album shared on the Bright Right label. Norwood organized a second Caravans reunion album in 2006 titled Paved the Way for Malaco Records, on which she, Walker Andrews, and Washington were joined vocally by non-alumni Evelyn Turrentine, AG, and Faith Howard. CDs of classic recordings by the Caravans from the late 50s to the mid-60s include the 23 song The Best of the Caravans and the 28 track Going Home. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe.